What's up guys, my name is JDCook5 and welcome back to another episode of the F1 My Team Career Mode. We're going to be straight into things in the Belgian Grand Prix, but before we go into that, obviously we've got a budget that we can play with. We can update a few things and also we can have a look at the parts that we need to update for the car to have that little edge in the qualifying and the races. Also we do the autofill activities. I also like that feature very much, as you all know, and as we do that we then look at doing the personnel sides of things. So we're going to be looking at the fitness centre, having the second driver's racecraft go up, so hoping that will aid Felipe Massa. Looking at the parts, we can have a few that we can upgrade, the ECU being one, so we can have one upgrade on that being the powertrain. We was having a look at other things also being the chassis and things like that. Nothing to upgrade on that side of things, but yeah, just nice to be able to see what can we upgrade. And we also, I do believe we look at the durability things also, making sure that the engine is all good and making sure that we are going to have no failures for the race coming up. We are now going into practice. So if you don't know and if you're new around here and you haven't watched any of the F1 My Team series, I do suggest that you go and check out the playlists that are all on my channel. You can go from one to the previous episode current episode, sorry, that we are on now. But yeah, normally what we do is we do our practice programs. We get enough acclaim as possible with the R&D stuff, get to know the track and things like that, and then obviously we then go on to qualifying. Spa being a big circuit and a very tricky one at that, a very fast one, don't get me wrong, but it is a very long circuit with a normal lap time of about 148 to 150s. Just going through the track here, as you can see, you go down the hill and you do get a DRS point as you go up, and as you can see, Magnussen just letting me go. Through we go. I feel like I was quite fast in practice. I felt like I was getting used to the track. The setup wasn't too bad, but it did take a bit of getting used to for whatever reason. You get a long DRS straight, which is a high overtaking point within this circuit, as you go really hard onto the brakes as you're hitting the rev limiter through the tight chicanes as you then go back down the circuit. And as I say, it's a really fast circuit, but a very tricky one of that. You have to be very precise. Not many overtaking points, and I feel like there is a lot of defensive kind of work that you can do on this track also. Bearing in mind that we are going to have a sprint race to prepare for also, so we're going to have 5 laps on the sprint, and then I do believe it's around 15 laps on the full race also. So we have got a lot to prepare for and a lot to think about in terms of setup and everything else. In terms of how fast we was going on the race strategy, we was completely blitzing it, feeling like we was putting in some consistent amount of laps and getting what we needed to do actually done. This part of the circuit, again, it's really tricky. Not many fast points in that way, but as you see then, as soon as you go into the brakes and then you go hard on the accelerator, and it's pretty much, you do not go on the brakes whatsoever going through this bit. As you say, this is a tough circuit, but it's something that I really enjoy and something that we are getting used to. Obviously, the game's been out for about a month or so we're used to the car now. We are used to everything that we are been using in this circuit and kind of actually as the game itself, as we look to go over the line to complete the lap 2 of the race strategy. Just showing you on the practice program, we are able to confirm that we get a decent lap. With the laps that we put in, we was only good enough to get into P7. Felipe Massa, our teammate, going into P17 for practice 1, and that stands us in good stead going into qualifying. We haven't actually pushed the soft tyre whatsoever, so it'll be interesting to see how fast we are on the soft tyre and if we can put some decent qualifying laps in. So let's go into the straight things of the qualifying lap. So here we are then, we're going to be completing the flying lap as we look to go over the checkered line to complete the first, well, to go on to the first lap, may I say. Going slow into there to try and get the best exit as possible as we look to have a decent bit of corner speed going out of there. A little bit on the side there where we're going on the camber, so that will slow us down, but away we go on this one. So we're lap 1. If you've been tuning into our recent episodes, you've been seeing that while lap 1 is actually our best qualifying lap for whatever reason. Not too sure why that is, but I will take it for sure. I think the only thing I can put it down to is actually being the overtake in terms of the energy. The energy is most preserved at the first lap, and obviously where we don't have any sort of control over our energy in the qualifying qualifying laps, then it gets drained more than I would imagine to use it. first purple sector, but I think I am one of the first ones out, so that is expected as we look to go and see if we can get a decent lap time. We're looking fast, that is the main thing. It is just whether we are fast. As other people cross the line now, as you can see, I'm going down the pecking order. Esteban Ocon currently fastest lap, but that will definitely change as the fastest drivers on track go to complete their laps also. Looks so good though, so good so far as we be down to P12, but we haven't completed the laps as of yet. A really fast part of this track as we are literally in gear 8 for pretty much most of it, as you're hitting top speeds of about 205, 206 miles an hour before you kind of get to the end of that little bit of straight. As you can see here, hard on the brakes, yeah, so 206 miles an hour isn't bad whatsoever as we go into this tight bit of the circuit, trying to get the car around as best as possible and getting the best exit. The checkered line is there as we go over the line. That puts us in P2 for the moment, so a decent lap time, 144.7, much quicker than practice, but unfortunately it doesn't look quick overall, as that was our quickest lap, and unfortunately for us that puts us in P9 with our teammate Felipe Massa finishing in P20. I'm hoping for a better teammate next year, I tell you, because we have not had much luck.
Welcome to today's sprint. This is shaping up to be another fantastic weekend. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting sprint. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, edging out Sergio Perez, who lines up P2. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Sainz, Verstappen, Russell, Hamilton, Norris, Fernando Alonso, Cook, Ocon, Gasly, Tsunoda, Magnussen, Albon, Hulkenberg, Stroll, Oscar Piastri, Joe, Bottas, Massa, Sargent, and Nick de Vries. And with preparations almost complete, let's head trackside for today's sprint.
Here we are then, we're on the grid for the sprint race as we wait for the lights to go out. It is going to be 5 lights out and away we go. We're in P9, Alonso just in front of us, Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton just in front of us with the Alpine of Pierre Gasly trying to sneak through. Massive, going late on the brakes there, and we are completely through into P4. I felt some sort of a collision as I went through there, but a massive load of places being made up, and what a start that was as we activate the ERS as we go up the hill now, chasing the Ferraris of Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc, and a brilliant start being made, and hopefully that is going to push us even further into this Grand Prix. It's going to be lap 1 of 5, so 5 laps are going to commence in this race. A short one being the sprint, but this is definitely going to prepare us for the long race in the next run of things, as we see Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc running away with it, in all honesty, already gaining a second gap in front of us. Max Verstappen is the one behind us in 400ths of a second, and he is gaining time on us, much so as George Russell is completing the top 6. And this is going to be interesting. Sergio Perez in P1, I do believe, as we look to have the charge on now, and this is going to be brilliant. I was really looking forward to racing, and this is definitely shaping up to be something special. Obviously we didn't qualify that good in P9, but it looks to be now that we have definitely made the better start, and we are racing forward, and hopefully this can put us in a better kind of position for the second race. Really clumsy into there as we go onto the grass verge with Max Verstappen completely breezing past us in the Red Bull machine. George Russell is going to take a look now as we are on a fast bit of straight, and he's going to go on the left hand side of me as we go wheel to wheel with George Russell. We get put back into our place as we are now in P6. We had the moment where we were forward for 1 minute, but unfortunately it isn't to be as we now battle with George Russell going into this corner late on the brake zone. We do collide with him also as we go wheel to wheel in this corner, trying to see who's got more bottle, and it is going to be George Russell as a look at it as we go neck and neck on the straight. I think he's got more speed than me than anything. We haven't activated any ERS or anything. No DRS as of the moment. That will be activated next lap as we are able to outbrake George Russell as he now battles with Fernando Alonso, and we go down the hill in P5. So a crazy few laps as we get started in Spa. as we look to now chase Max Verstappen, lap 3 of 5, as we maintain a steady pace in that second lap. Just tucking in behind Max, but we are decent, kind of getting a decent time behind him now, and we are going to get DRS on this straight also, so it is going to depend if we have got the pace to be able to get past him. We have got the speed though, we're going to get in slipstream also, a little bit of dirty air, but that doesn't matter as we go wheel to wheel, and Max Verstappen nearly collides with us as he's literally swaying side by side as we go up the camber, but it looks to be that we've secured the place, and we are now in P4 as Max Verstappen is behind us, as you can see in our rear view mirror, making up the position that we previously were in at the start of lap 1. This is going to be the battle between, I reckon, Verstappen and Russell more than anything, and as you can see, George Russell has actually got past Max Verstappen, the Mercedes engine being faster out of the two, and he now looks to see if he can kind of have a little overtake here. We did kind of have a battle here previously, and he is going to try again as we're now going to go for the second time wheel to wheel into this corner, and this is definitely going to get the better of me as he looks to be the faster out of myself being the Ferrari engine and himself in the Mercedes. Wheel to wheel with George Russell, and we're going to look at an overtake here. We have got a little bit of space, and we're going to give him time also, but we're going to tuck in just behind him because we know we're going to get the DRS as soon as we go up the hill and onto that straight, as we look to chase George Russell now, and we can see now where we're gaining the time, so we have definitely got the pace and everything else as we do collide with him momentarily. As we look to see now, we're going to get DRS, so it is time to now see if we can get past him. We're on the left hand side, he's given us space, and we completely whiz through. The DRS is definitely kind of superior, and we are now through back into P4 as we take that corner nicely, and we now go on the charge. I mean, to be honest, in front of Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz are in their own little race. It's definitely between ourselves and George Russell, and probably Verstappen more than anything. George Russell once again overtaking me on that part of the track. We don't seem fast there whatsoever as we go over the camber, losing a bit of time, and Max Verstappen looks to take a look, but it's not to be, and he stays just behind us with now Fernando Alonso, and there's a massive group behind us. George Russell taking a decent gap on 1.5 seconds now just in front, and now it is going to be lap 5 of 5, so we're on the final lap of the sprint. Max Verstappen looks to see if he can try and gain a little bit of time on myself, and he's trying to get DRS on that straight and try and get past into P5. I think he is too far behind though. I think by the time he actually gets on that bit of DRS and gets the pace and everything else, and we are activating the overtake, we've literally got nothing left of the battery, but we've drained it to the point where we have stayed in front of him, and we have definitely done a decent job. As we say, as we go down the hill now on the chase to George Russell, is to see if we can gain any time whatsoever, and we have gained a fair amount of time, probably about 700th of a second we've gained on George Russell. With that being said though, he does look like the superior machine, and I think he is going to claim that P4 in the end as he goes down the hill and he goes out of the distance, as it's now about 800th a second going on to 900ths, and he does look fast going through these corners. I feel like that's the thing that I've struggled with all kind of in this circuit and all year round in everything in this actual calendar. Corner speed has been a real lack, and I've actually feel like I've been better in the straights. The powertrain I've upgraded quite a lot, and it seems to benefit in the straights, but unfortunately I just don't seem to ace the corners as well, and I don't have the corner speed compared to many other drivers. As we look to go now, as we can see Max Verstappen, yeah, we've gained a nice bit of time on him. He is going to gain a decent bit of time on us though, as you can see he's coming, he's there, 500th of a second, 600th of a second, so it is interesting to see that he's made the gap, but I think there's 2 less of the corners, and we are going to claim P5, and this is going to be our best result in the sprint races also, so I'm really proud of that. Definitely a big kind of rise in where we've come from not being able to gain any points in the sprint whatsoever, to now doing what we do best and getting the points. And yeah, a really good race, and that solidifies P5 in this sprint race, and we look forward to the big race coming up next. Driver of the day goes to myself also, so a nice kind of a nice lot of points. We get 4 points for that one, and we also get driver of the day. You can't really go wrong as you look to see now Sergio Perez wins that Grand Prix, with Ocon being 10th, Norris 9th, Hamilton 8th, Alonso 7th, Max Verstappen 6th, myself 5th, George Russell 4th, Sainz 3rd, Charles Leclerc 2nd, and Sergio Perez in P1. So if it's not Max Verstappen in the Red Bull, it is now going to be Sergio Perez taking the victory, with our teammate Felipe Massa in 19th.
Hosted its first Grand Prix back in 1925, and this historic track is loved by drivers and fans alike, and us here in the commentary box too. So it's a warm welcome from the Belgian Grand Prix. Spa-Francorchamps then, a historic 19-corner circuit with a lap distance of 4.35 miles. There's over 100 metres of elevation change here, and with long stretches of the lap spent flat out, a good top speed will be vital for success. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. It's Sergio Perez on pole today, and it's Charles Leclerc in P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Sainz, Russell, Cook, Verstappen, Fernando Alonso, Hamilton, Norris, Ocon, Gasly, Albon, Tsunoda, Stroll, Oscar Piastri, Hulkenberg, Magnussen, Massa, Bottas, De Vries, Joe, and Logan Sargent. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race. Anthony Davidson joins me again for today's race. They've been involved in a number of costly incidents lately. That's got to affect their mindset going into this race.
It's not an ideal situation by any means. When you get into a bad run like that, there's always a risk of frustration creeping in, which can cause more mistakes and locks you into this vicious cycle. Hopefully today they can get through turn 1 cleanly and stay calm for the rest of the race.
After the points finished last race, let's aim to keep that momentum going.
Here we go then, the big race we've all been waiting for, the 5 lights out. We are P5 and away we go. We're in a much better position as we can see George Russell to our left, Charles Leclerc as we're going to go past him also as we go late onto the brakes, and we're going to take a look at Carlos Sainz, and we are going to slot into P2, a much better start this time, an even better one compared to the sprint race, and we go down the hill in P2 with Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc, both Ferraris just behind us, with George Russell making up the 5th position, with Sergio Perez just in front, 400 per second splits myself and the Red Bull machine, and this looks to be a hectic Grand Prix as we look to see now if we can maintain our position. Not looking at P1 whatsoever, as Sergio Perez definitely looks like he's got better pace compared to us as he takes them corners much elegantly, and he looks to go past now, and he is now definitely gaining a decent amount of time. But yeah, that was a really good start. As you can see, Carlos Sainz right on the back of me, as you can see on my rear view mirror, and we are going to be battling it out between the Ferraris and trying to hold this position as much as possible, and maybe even hoping for a safety car. That would definitely be the one to bunch everything up later on in the Grand Prix. As I say though, lap 4 now of 15, and we're still in P2. We've gained a bit of time. As you can see though, Sergio Perez is in front with a 2.4 second gap, but we have gained a little bit of time from the ones that are behind us. Still maintains with Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc and George Russell making up the 5th position. But yeah, we're just holding our own in all honesty, racing our own Grand Prix, and see if we can kind of maintain this position as we look to kind of fight off Carlos Sainz. And he is definitely going to take a look at us on this point of the circuit. And as I've said many times throughout this episode, this is a very fast part of the track where you're literally not on the brakes whatsoever, and it is the determination of who can go faster on this track, as Carlos Sainz is going to take a look, and he completely breezes past us with that complete absolute ease as we look to try and see if we can take the battle to Sainz. I move to the left, I move to the right, I've got nowhere to go. I'm late onto the brakes on the right hand side, and I don't even know how we do it. We need to go past him there. We have to wait our turn though, as Carlos Sainz is slotting into P2, and now it is for the battle between myself and the Ferrari engine, wheel to wheel as we go over the checkered line, completing lap 4 of 15, going on to lap 5, and it is definitely going to now see who is faster out of the Ferrari engines. We've all got Ferrari engines apart from George Russell and Sergio Perez, and now we are battling it out with Carlos Sainz, and we look to go up the hill now in P2, but we are completely wheel to wheel. Carlos Sainz has literally slotting in just behind as he knows he's going to get DRS, and as you can see, he completely goes right past us. Charles Leclerc is going to take a look also as we go wheel to wheel through that corner, and I think it's some fine margins, and that was a close one as we nearly go straight into the back of Carlos Sainz as he is early on the brakes. We do have to check over the vehicle to make sure all is good and everything is still in one state, but yeah, that is a decent move from Carlos Sainz, and fair play to him now. And now the one that we have to battle with is Charles Leclerc, 200 of a second just behind me, and he's definitely going to be one to battle and see if he can get past us for that podium spot. Lap 5 of 15, as I say, half a second splits us from the one in front. Sergio Perez is way in front, so no looking at him whatsoever. And now we are looking at racking up the laps as we get DRS on this straight. Lap 7 of 15. We can't go past Carlos Sainz at that point, but we were very close. And once again, we need to go straight into the back of Carlos Sainz. Really close quarters, and it is definitely about those fine margins, seeing who can push that little bit more and get past wide on that corner. And that allows George Russell now, who has overtaken Charles Leclerc, to see if he can try and gain enough time. A second does split us though, so I don't think he got DRS on that straight also. So we might be gaining a bit of time from the ones behind us and maybe solidifying this P3. You never know. George Russell making a decent bit of time up on this straight though, as he looks to see if he can kind of get anywhere near us whatsoever. 600 per second going down to nearly 500 per second as he goes to see if he can try to overtake us at any point. Late onto the brakes, going through this tight chicane, and now we are in for the pits. We are now pitting for the medium tyre, and I do believe we've got Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen, George Russell, Carlos Sainz and Sergio Perez has gone forward. But yeah, as we say, I've got Charles Leclerc and Verstappen going into the pits as we wait our turn, hoping for an optimal pit stop, which would be around about 2.4 to 2.5 seconds as we look to turn into our pit entry box. And yeah, this is going to be interesting to see, that make sure that no one comes out just in front of us. A very fast pit stop, no front wing damage whatsoever, and we are through back into our position. Obviously we go down the pecking order a little bit, but there are other people that are yet to pit, so we slot in at P12, just in behind Nick De Vries and Logan Sargent, and we've got behind us, we've got Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc. Time will tell to see if they gain any time on us. So obviously the medium tyre is cold, but it will be time to see who can kind of gain as much time as possible and make the most out of the medium tyre. Max Verstappen right on us, but as you can see in the distance, we've got De Vries and Sargent in front of us. Verstappen's not bothered about that whatsoever, because he's going to be battling with Charles Leclerc also, and there is definitely going to be a battle between the two to who can get past. I think with the battle between the two, it has allowed me to gain a little bit of time, and we nearly go into the back of De Vries, and we have to go right to the right hand side as all of them go into the pits. As you can see, my teammate Felipe Massa going into the pits, and that means that we go up the pecking order. So as we see, it'll be interesting to see where we actually do come out, where George Russell will be, and also Carlos Sainz. But I think Carlos Sainz is just going to be in front of us. As you can see there, George Russell coming out the box really quick also, but we are able to gain enough time on him, and we are through on George Russell, cementing that P3 place, and away we go once again. I think we're going to get DRS on Carlos Sainz as we look to battle with the car going through that bit of the circuit, making sure that we don't kind of crash out in this GP, and we are going to get DRS also. George Russell does also as well, so he's gained enough time on that. But purple sector 1, so the medium tyre is definitely working, and we definitely seem to have more grip going in through these corners. As you can see now, we are closing in on Carlos Sainz and taking the battle to him. Very unexpected to say the least, but I do believe that we have actually got our tyres up to temperature compared to Carlos Sainz, that has only just come out the pits and waiting to warm the tyre. Don't get me wrong, he is the faster out of us, but it'll be interesting to see if we can bring the battle to him and look to trouble his race in Belgium. Lap 9 of 15 then, he's about 500 of a second just in front. George Russell about 300 of a second, with Verstappen a 1.1 second gap between us. And yeah, I think George Russell's going to be taking a look as we go wide through that corner, and that was really sketchy as we nearly collide there, as George Russell has to put the brakes on and just sit that little bit back, as he knows he's going to try and take the overtake on this long bit of straight. They've got the pace, he knows he's got the pace, and a lot of people have been overtaking me on that part of the circuit. Lap 10 of 15 then, only 5 laps to go until we are the end of this Belgium Grand Prix, and we have got Carlos Sainz still in front of us, 1.2 seconds. He has gained a decent bit of time, but one is looking to take him front, and he just done it. George Russell goes through in a really clean overtake, and away he goes with Max Verstappen now behind us, and he's going to take a look on that bit of straight. You just know he is, as we look to try and see if we can hold our position and maybe take the fight to George Russell now, as he looks to be kind of literally zooming off in it all anything. But as you can see, for whatever reason, then we gain time. So I think if someone's in front of you and you can get the slipstream, even though there's dirty air and you have a little bit of ERS, I feel like it works in your favour, actually not being the one in front. As we go wheel to wheel through that corner, and we have literally by the skin of our teeth gone through there as we are fighting with the car. A little bit of Tokyo drift, and Carlos Sainz completes the fastest lap, and he's definitely on for a few decent laps now. As you can see, he's now going to be pushing and pushing as much as possible. Sergio Perez is away, don't get me wrong, but yeah, it's definitely one to look at in terms of the fastest lap. just making sure the car was okay. As you do see there, when we went through the corner, we did clip the curb. As you can see now, Max Verstappen just behind us. He's gone in front of George Russell, and he's going to take it. We're going to look in front of us also. He's going to have DRS, and we are literally going every single way he's going, just trying to make sure that he doesn't get past us whatsoever. And it's going to be neck on neck going through this corner. He has got the pace, but we are late on the brakes, and we are through. This has been a matter of determination as we're trying to hold on to this position 3 for our lives as we want to get on this podium, but I don't know if it's going to be achievable by the end of the race. Max Verstappen still in P4 after that little bit of a sketchy moment. He still is in there with a chance, but I look at that, as you can see, radar suggests some rain, but I don't feel like it's going to be here in enough time for us to be pitting and to make the race a little bit different. Max Verstappen still behind us, and as you can see, he goes through us, and what an overtake that was. Not a point where you would think they would overtake in that scenario whatsoever, but he is through, and away he goes. So it's 2 Red Bulls that are currently going to be on the podium. George Russell just behind us, 200th of a second splits us. But once again, we're right on the back of Verstappen, and as I said previously on that lap, if you're in front of someone, I feel like you have a better advantage actually getting past someone and having a faster sector on this bit of the track as we go wheel to wheel through that corner, neck and neck, as we look to see if we can gain any little bit of edge possible. A really good exit compared to last lap, and we are through on Max Verstappen now as we go over the checkered line, completing 11 laps, and now on to lap 12 of 15. Not long to go whatsoever as the laps are completely going down so fast. George Russell and Max Verstappen having a little bit of a battle between them as we look to try and see if we can gain any time now. With them having a battle and losing time on us, we're going to see if we can gain any time on them. 800 of a second, 700 of a second. They're going to get DRS, but I'm not too sure if it's enough. Max Verstappen, nevertheless, is going to take a look. Lap 12 of 15, as I say, and he's definitely going to battle it out. But we are decent through that bit of corner, and we are through on Max Verstappen, and so is George Russell. He looks to try to see, as Max Verstappen was on the brakes really early, he gets past him with absolute ease, and away he goes. So he is through, and this has definitely been a tale of the two, of where it's literally one position after the other where we are battling it out. And now George Russell is now taking a look to see if he can get past us and not worry about Max Verstappen as he looks to try and get P3 in this race. We're closing the gap off completely as we don't want him getting past us whatsoever, and just trying to see if we can kind of maintain this for as long as possible. We don't have many laps left, don't get me wrong, but any little error and we are kind of holding up this holding position, and we could wave goodbye to it as we go early on into the break to try and gain a nice and decent bit of exit, as we now have the fast bit of the track where we're literally all go as we now look to go on this straight. As you can see, we're weaving in and out, and we are on the camber, so we're going to slot ourselves in between George Russell. ERS is going to go on, so we're going to have to see if we can go late onto the brakes through this bit of the circuit, and we are right on him. We're going to go on the left hand side, but we're going to look to go on the right because that's where the space is, even though he's closing it off late onto the brakes, and we close it out, and we are now into P3 with Verstappen into P4 as the car weaves going through that corner, completing lap 12 of 15, going on to lap 13 now. Not a lot has happened in terms of yellow flags or crashes or mechanical failures or anything like that, but this has definitely been one that has been happening in terms of overtakes and the battles on track. Lap 13 of 15, as I say, Max Verstappen is the one that he's chopping changing between themselves and George Russell. I go wide on that corner, and that allows Max Verstappen through, and away he goes, and he is through with complete ease. No fight being able to put up by Max Verstappen whatsoever, as the space was there, and through he goes now, and he seems to be going in the distance, and I'm not too sure, even though I am right behind him and have got a little bit of ERS, whether I'm actually going to gain enough time on him, actually, because George Russell, and an unlikely one that we haven't mentioned in this Grand Prix an awful lot, and that is Fernando Alonso actually taking a look at George Russell when he is momentarily through. I'm not too sure what it's going to be when they're going late onto the brakes through this corner. I'm pretty sure George Russell has got the faster engine, but Fernando Alonso has definitely got the bigger might as he goes through now, and he is going to go over the checkered line of lap 13 of 15 commence. Lap 14 now underway, and we are literally have got about 2 laps left now until this Belgian Grand Prix is done and dusted. Fernando Alonso just behind us, as I say, 400 per second, 300 per second. He's definitely going to gain time on the DRS, but I'm going to want to have it where I've got the DRS on Max Verstappen. Here we are then, ACC, as we look to go over the line, and we are going to get DRS 700 per second. Just keep your eye on the time split, and we are going to gain a little bit of time. And actually, talking about mechanical failures Valtteri Bottas is out the session, only 2 laps to go, but unfortunately for Valtteri Bottas, he has to pull to a side, and the Alfa Romeo breaks down for him, and an unfortunate run of events for Valtteri. But as I was saying on the DRS, unfortunately we can't really gain enough time, and it is what it is on that one. We just seem to have where Max Verstappen is faster than us, and we have to worry about George Russell also that is behind us. So yeah, I feel like as the rain falls down now, I feel like we're not going to get any much grip whatsoever, but there's no point pitting as it's literally going to be the final lap. So here we go then, we're going to be battling for the 4th position in this Grand Prix as Max Verstappen has gained a load of time in front of us as a few costly mistakes has made the time go even further in front of us, and we look to try and see if we can kind of hold this position that the one that we are in then. George Russell and Fernando Alonso still making up the top 6 as we go up the hill, and they're going to get DRS on us, but also Alonso is going to get DRS on George Russell. So it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of go past us both. But it looks to be that George Russell is going to take a look on the left-hand side as we go late onto the brake. We have maintained the position going through the chicane only just as we look to see now Fernando Alonso gone past and Charles Leclerc. So George Russell completely making a mistake there. Not too sure if it's the raindrops that are falling down that have made a mistake, and he has missed time his corner. But Fernando Alonso now the one to worry about as Charles Leclerc makes up the top 6 and George Russell just outside, with also his teammate Lewis Hamilton. Lap 15 of 15, as I say, this is the final lap and this is the last thing to happen, as we don't want to kind of have it where anyone goes past us now. A P4 would be very generous in terms of how the race has turned out for us and the car that we are dealing with as of the moment. Fernando Alonso right on our tail, as you can see in the rear view mirror. He is completely on us. Charles Leclerc looking, he's battling with the Spaniard also as they look to try and gain as many points as they can in the last moments of this Grand Prix. Fernando Alonso is going to take a look on this straight as he probably has a little bit of ERS left. Sergio Perez claiming the win in this Grand Prix as he looks to go over the checkered line. A monumental race by the Mexican as he goes over the checkered line, claiming P1 in this Grand Prix, and a really good Grand Prix for him also. Let's say that was really well done from Sergio Perez, but we're not worrying about Perez, we're worrying about the person that is currently behind us, and that is Fernando Alonso, trying to push him off as much as possible as we don't have the space as much as we do have the pace late on into the brakes as we go into the final few corners, and it looks to be that no overtaking points are going to be made, and we go over the checkered line in P4. Near to the end of the weekend, we made it good, but as I say, it was a bit of a weird one with the qualifying. Not our best qualifying, a decent sprint race that put us in a good start for the main race, and we seem to go over the line in P4. For where we're at the season and where the car's at, I feel like that is very well done in all honesty, and we now to move further on. Looking at the total kind of standings, Felipe Massa in 21st, not the best for him whatsoever, a really poor weekend, but not so bad whatsoever for us, a decent sprint race and a P4 in the main race also. Same in terms of the standings and where we stand in the constructors, no movement in that because we're the only one gaining the points, and Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz making a decent amount of points up in the weekend, and there's no way we are going past any of them. So I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Please like and subscribe for more content just like this one, and don't forget to hit the notification button so you never miss a video. Cheers.